Hi, and welcome to the Writing Momentum podcast. I'm Gena Maselli, and this is my husband, Christopher Maselli.
Hey.
And we are thrilled to be here. It's the beginning of 2023.
Ooh, it's
Yeah,
2023. It's
it's
always good. I
2023.
like New Year's,
I
because it's
know.
like a new beginning. It's like something new.
There's a newness to it
It
that
is.
just gives us, that kind of charges us up.
Yeah.
And I also think that it's because we've come off the holidays, that this is the time that we kind of take a break between
Yeah.
Christmas and the new year, that we kind of take a break, we kind of slow down. And I think that slowing down seems to charge us up and re-energize us and gets us ready. And it makes us, we start having all these conversations, don't we,
Yeah.
about the
Yeah.
new
Because
year?
we always start thinking about what do we want to do in 2023. We look a little bit back on what we did in 2022, but we're
Mhm.
always looking forward, right? We're looking forward to what do we want to do in 2023? Where do we want to go? What do we want to do differently? What do we want to do
Mhm.
the same? Well, and so, yeah, we've had some good conversations about that already. Gina and
Yeah.
I have, and I wonder, how about you? Have you been thinking about your book? Have you been thinking about a presentation you want to do, or
Mhm.
marketing that you want to do for your book? What is it that's been on your mind as far as what you want to do in 2023?
Right.
And you may not have an answer for that yet. Maybe you haven't thought much about it. And we just want to encourage you, yeah, think about that. And in fact, Gina, that's what we're going to talk about today, isn't it?
It is. We started talking about what do we want to talk about on this podcast.
Yeah.
And, it's the first podcast of the year. And we started talking about different things. We could do kind of a retrospective of 2022. And then we kind of thought, no, what do you need?
Yeah.
What do you want to talk about? And so we thought, well, let's talk about where you're going in 2023, and let's talk about how maybe we can help you get there.
Yeah. So, what we like to do when we're planning for the year is set goals
Uh-huh.
for that year. And what I like to call them are small victories all year long. So, we like to typically create goals that are in 6 week increments, right?
Mhm.
So that we're not just saying, okay, by December of next year, I have this big goal I want to try and reach. We're saying, okay, in the next 6 weeks, like by mid February, what are we going to have accomplished? Because that's something we can put on our calendar.
Mm.
And we don't just put the one goal on there, we actually break it down. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. So,
Yeah.
what we encourage you to do is think about what might some of your goals be, and then turn them into what are called SMART goals. So, SMART goals are like a filter that you can put your goals through. SMART goals were created back in like 1981 by a gentleman who wrote an article for as a business article in like a business journal, but they just stuck. And you've probably heard of SMART goals if you've been in the business space at all. But they actually work for us really well for us as writers, don't they, Gina?
Well, they do, because you are a business. If you are a writer, you are a business. You need to be thinking about your writing, not just from a creative place, but also from a business place of, how am I going to do this? What are the steps I'm going to take? Am I going to traditionally publish? Am I going to independently publish? Am I going to do a hybrid publisher? How am I going to get my message out there?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of questions that you ask that are very much their production questions, their marketing questions, their strategy type questions. I mean, there's just a lot of business that goes into it,
Yeah.
bottom line.
So,
So,
so in creating your goals, what we want to do is we'd like to do this together with you. And
mhm.
so to do that, we have created a PDF. It's called Move the Needle, and it's absolutely free to you as a listener of this Writing Momentum podcast. And to get it, all you have to do is go to writingmomentum.com. We've put it right there on the front page where you can download it. And for those of you who are watching us on YouTube, I'm actually going to bring it up here on the screen so that you can see what it looks like. It's called Move the Needle 6 Weeks to Your Next Major Accomplishment. And this is a really actionable ebook, because in here you can write down what your goals are, break them into smaller bite sized pieces, put dates to them, and then start taking action. And then we work regularly with people who do this. They'll set their goals in 6 week increments, and accomplish a lot. I'm getting all tripped up over my words. I'm so excited.
Well, and you were talking about how, you don't wanna just throw out a goal for December 2023, "This is
Yeah.
where I wanna be," or "This is what I wanna do." Um, and we were talking about how these are 6-week goals, but
Hmm.
you can even take that big goal that you have, but back it up and say, "Okay, let's break this down into 6-week increments." So you're moving your
Yes.
needle toward that bigger goal, but then you break it down into these bite-sized 6-week, periods, and then, like Chris said, within that 6 weeks, you're gonna break it down even more, and so you're actually putting, I guess, steps to the journey is what
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
is. Like, your journey and your vision is where you wanna go, but the steps are the little things that you do along the way to help you move that needle, and I think that's one of the biggest things that we've seen is that, the small m moving
Hmm.
the small movement to your needle really leads to something big and something wonderful.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
let's get started.
So let's get started. So go to again writingmomentum.com, and download the Move the Needle PDF ebook. It's
Mhm,
absolutely free. You'll find it right there, big on the front page. And when you open it up, we've got it. A lot of the things we're going to talk about today are written in this ebook, so you can go over them again, or you can listen to this podcast a second time and go through it with us. But the first thing you want to do, step one, is to create your 6-week SMART goal. Now, again, remember, this is a 6-week SMART goal. So don't feel like you're trying to figure out what you're going to do all over this whole next year. You may, let's say, by the end of the year, you want to have a book published, okay? But that's not something you're probably going to do within 6 weeks. You might, but probably not. So, what we want you to do is start off by saying, what is your overall goal? So your goal might be write a book, right?
mhm.
Could that be your overall goal?
It
Write a
could
book.
be. It
Okay.
could be, and depending on how big the book is, how elaborate it is, you might say, "Well, my 6-week goal is to outline that book."
Yeah.
That might be, maybe you're whether you're in the fiction or nonfiction space, maybe you want to outline that book, and you
Hmm.
wanna really spend some time thinking about everything you could put in it,
Yeah.
and then really choosing that path. So, your 6-week goal could be a variety of things.
Yeah.
There's not just one thing.
But it'll probably be something overall like write your book. Let's
Mhm.
start there because we're going to break it down after you've come up with that bigger item. So after you've written that down, now's where you're going to go start going through that SMART filter. Okay.
Mhm.
SMART is specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. So first, we're going to start with specific. If you said, I want to write a book, now I want you to get more specific. What exactly are you going to do over the next 6 weeks in that book? Are you going to write 5 chapters of your book? Are you going to write the outline, like Gina said? Right? What is it exactly that you want to do? Get specific here, and then you have a higher chance of attaining it, right?
Mhm. Absolutely. And like Chris said, we're gonna break these down even more. You're gonna see where we're going with
Yeah.
that. But you do wanna be specific. You don't want it to be this kind of arbitrary, "I wanna write a book." No, what kind of book do you wanna write?
Hmm.
Who is your market that you're writing for? What are you trying to say in it? Just really be specific about what it is that you're going to tackle in the 6 weeks.
Yeah. So the next thing is after you become more specific, I want to write 5 chapters of my book. Now we want to make it measurable. Okay. Measurable is so that you can know whether you actually accomplished that goal. So in business, they have these things called KPIs, or key performance indicators. What that means is that you've got specific things that you can look at that can say whether you were successful or not in your goal. Okay. So, in our example above, I'm going to write 5 chapters of a book. What's your key performance indicator? Well, one might just be those 5 chapters, but another one I think is the word count. So, if you know you want to write, let's say, 5,000 words per chapter, then that's what you're going to put in here. I'm going to write 25,000 words over 5 chapters. Okay, that's measurable, isn't it? And this also, I'm sure, you might feel your stress level and begin to rise right here, right? Because you're starting to realize, oh my goodness, this is becoming real, and it's becoming, kind of a little overwhelming. but that's okay because we're going to relieve that stress here in just a moment. Okay, so that's specific, then measurable. The next thing we want you to do is make it achievable. And this is where you start asking yourself questions. Okay. So if you've written those two things down in the ebook that we provided at writingmomentum.com, now you're going to look at those things that you wrote down and say, is this achievable? Is it achievable for you to write 5,000 words, well, not 5,000, we said 25,000 words over 5 chapters in the next 6 weeks? Is that achievable? For some people, they're like, they look at that and they're like, "Yeah, yeah, I can do that. I can write 5,000 words a week, right? That's 5 chapters. I can write a chapter a week." Other people look at that and say, "Oh, there's no way. My life's way too busy. I've got too much going on. I can't do that."
Mhm.
This is where the rubber meets the road, and you can just see if something is possible, you
Mhm.
know?
And then if it's not, if 5,000 words doesn't work for you, then maybe you go, okay, well, then I'm not going to do 5 chapters of the book. Maybe I'm only going to do four,
Yeah.
or maybe I'm only going to do three, or whatever that is. So, or maybe you're going to need 2 weeks to finish a chapter. And so you're only going to get maybe 2.5 chapters written. And that's fine.
Mhm.
That's still 2.5 chapters that you didn't have before you got started. So,
100%. Yeah, yeah, that's really good. This whole thing is about adjusting as we go. That's why we're breaking this into a
mhm.
SMART goal. We don't want to write down a goal like I'm going to finish a book in a year and then 6 months from now not have started because we didn't really know whether we could do it. We hadn't defined things. You define them all now, and then you have a higher chance of success.
Mhm.
All right, the next one after a specific, measurable, achievable is are relevant. Okay. Now, this one is a bit of a judgment call. This is where you have to ask yourself, is what you're creating, this goal that you're creating, congruent with who you are, right? Is this what you really want to do? If you are planning on writing a business book, but what you really want to write are children's books, is this going to be a little too tough to do because it doesn't line up with what you're wanting to do? Or if your goal is, I want to make a lot of money, but you're writing a children's book, you may say, hey, I need to do something different. It may not make that much. You might, but generally they don't pay quite as well, do they?
That's
And so
right.
so yeah, so you want to see what is it that you want to do to make sure that this matters. Now, honestly, I would normally do this first. Before you even get to the S in SMART, I would look and see if it's relevant, but then the acronym's out of order, right? So they put relevant here, fine. But you do want to ask yourself this: is this smart? Is it relevant? And will it be a SMART goal for
And
me?
does it align with not only who you are, but what your bigger vision
Yeah.
is? If your vision and goal is to become a speaker
Hmm.
of a certain topic, then you probably need to write your book on that topic. If you're a
Yes.
speaker who's wanting to do time management skills, then you probably don't need to spend your time on a novel or a
Yep.
children's book. You need to make sure that it is in line with where your bigger vision is and where your bigger vision. Now, you can have those passion projects. We all have those passion projects we want to do, but make sure that the real work is done before you tackle those probably.
Well, and it may seem obvious, but the truth is, I think if you look back at I know if we look back at our last year, we look at a lot of things that we did that were just kind of spinning our wheels, right? Things that we look at and we go, "Gee, why did we do that again?" And it's because we hadn't really defined certain things. And so because of that, we got a little off the rails, right? In order to stay on the proper road, you've got to make sure you gotta have a map to know where you're going. So
Yeah.
all right. Next one, the very last one is time bound. There's nothing that is more motivating than a good deadline, right? You want to have a deadline for what you do because that keeps you motivated. And that's why we like these 6 week pushes because anyone can do anything for 6 weeks. I mean, right? As hard as it can be to write that novel, you can do it for 6 weeks, can't you? I mean, you can do it for 6 weeks. So here's what we want you to do is we want you to look at your goal, look at your calendar and put that final due date right down here in this ebook that you
Yes.
downloaded. And when you look at that due date, you're going to see, oh, that's not that far off. It may be like in mid February, let's say it's February 15th. So you're going to say, hey, by Valentine's Day, I'm going to have this goal completed. Oh man, I'm excited because I can just imagine now a bunch of you are gonna set Valentine's Day as your goal, and our Valentine's Day gift is gonna be getting emails from you guys saying, "Guess what I just accomplished here on Valentine's Day."
That would be huge.
That
We
would be
we
awesome.
love hearing about the successes
Yes,
of the people, that are connecting with us. So,
please be
yes,
our
please
Valentine.
send us your success stories. We're all about it.
Okay, now here's the big key to this. Now we've set all these SMART goals. You may have heard of this before, but here's where this is a little bit different from what you a lot of times hear. What we want you to do now, after having created that SMART goal, is to create 5 SMART actions. 5 actions that will take you toward reaching that goal. In other words, break down this big goal into 5 bite-sized pieces, something you can do each week that brings you to the end. So, for instance, if you want to write 25,000 words between now and 6 weeks from now, then that means your goal is 5,000 words a week. Those are your 5 goals. So that's easy, right? But let's say your goal is to create a presentation. Well, now they may be slightly different each week. Maybe week 1, you want to do your outline. Week 2, you want to create your presentation slides. Week 3, you want to practice. Week 4, you want to create a handout, right? So each week you might have something different. But what we want you to do is come up with 5 smart actions. And we call them smart actions because you can again put them through this filter and make sure that every one of those actions is specific, is measurable, is achievable, is relevant to this project, and again, is time bound to the week. When you've done that, you will have a list of goals here at the end of the ebook that you can put up, you can print it out and put it right up by your computer and make sure that you're accomplishing that goal. Yeah.
It's true, and that's where Chris was talking earlier about being overwhelmed. You're thinking about the bigger goal that you wanna do at the end of the year. You've broken it down into these six-week goals, and maybe the six-week goal still feels
Hmm.
overwhelming, but when you start breaking down the SMART actions, then it becomes like, "Okay, so all I have to do is this week, I have to bite off this little part.
Yes.
I have to
Yes.
tackle this little bit here." And before you know it, at the end of that 6 weeks, it's huge.
Absolutely.
So
And if you're doing this alone, as a lot of us do, because writing can feel like a solitary venture, you may have heard me say it before, writing is not a solitary venture. That is something that we have made it. We have said that the writer is the person who goes to a cabin in the woods and sits by themselves. But we have found that writing is something that we do best together. We have writing momentum when we work together. And so we encourage you to get together with a group of other writers, or if you want to, you can join Gina and I and Renee Gutteridge. And we have every Wednesday, we have a thing called Writing Moments.
mhm,
And you can go to writingmoments.com, or if you go to writingmomentum.com to download your ebook, you'll see a link to Writing Moments there too. And what we do is we get together every single Wednesday, everyone, and we sit for an hour every Wednesday. The first 15 minutes, we have training on writing, on publishing, on marketing, on branding, something to do with writing.
mhm,
And then we just sit and we all write on our individual projects together.
mhm.
And we have already had some really good successes. We've had one writer in the group who just finished and published their book. Some others are getting really close to finishing theirs. Like it's exciting to see what
It
people are
is.
doing, and we'd love to have you be a part of that. And so, it's super, super affordable, and we'd love to have you join in. So please check out writingmoments.com and move the needle with us. We'd love to have you there.
Well, and I wanna say this, we meet on Wednesdays at noon Central,
Hmm.
and we do that so that even if you're at work, hopefully you can that is within the time frame that you could take a lunch break and join us there.
Yes.
And I'll also say that, everybody has things that come up. They don't always, aren't able to always meet with us, but the trainings we record, and
Yes.
then those who are in the Writing Moments group those are always available to them in their library that they're able to go back and listen to. And we regularly have people show up that they'll be in their car driving somewhere,
And
and
then
they
like,
will,
I can't write today, but I'm still showing up.
yes, I'm on my way to a lunch meeting or I'm on my way to do something, but I wanted to make sure I got the training.
Yeah.
So that it's just really valuable, and I think also wanna point out that we do take time at the beginning to make everybody feel welcome. We have experienced writers in there, we
Yeah.
have new writers in there, so no matter what your level is, you are welcome, you are always welcome, I promise.
Yes.
We will not you will not feel anything but encouraged
Yeah.
in that, so
You'll feel very comfortable. It's just a fun
yeah,
group. Everyone's very encouraging
yeah,
and everyone's at different levels. So
and
we
we're
love the
getting to
fact that
know one another. We're talking and chatting and hearing about different projects, and
Mhm.
so I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens with this group as we just kind of bond together even more.
Yes.
Not only the projects that come out of it, but also the relationships that come out of it too.
Hey, if you're ready to move the needle, come move it with us. Be sure to go to writingmomentum.com, download this free ebook. We want you to have it. We created it just for you. It's really good. It's actionable, and I think you'll enjoy it. Until next time, that's what we've got today. We hope that you join us, and it's always fun because together we have writing momentum. Bye bye.